Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. No, I guess anyone signed up for open forum. Okay, so welcome to our August 29th Tiverton School Committee meeting. Can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Dr. Larkin, may I ask us to pull two of the items from the agenda?
Sure.
That would be 4A and 5B.
Okay. Can I have a motion to pull 4A and 5B?
I'll make that motion.
There you go.
I'll make the motion to pull item 4A, June enrollment, and 5A, 6/13/23, building committee minutes from the agenda.
Actually, I think it was the new hires
It's the
document.
new hires.
Excuse me, it's 5B, new hire document.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Mrs. Farnworth?
Yes.
Mrs. Pavo?
Yes.
Mr. Dakotas?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Do you want to take those up now, or do you want to, if we're going to,
Whatever your pleasure is.
okay, I'll turn the floor to you, Mrs. Farnworth.
Okay, thank you. For item 4A, June enrollment, I just wanted to say thank you to Mrs. Mendes for updating that report, as was my ask at our last meeting, so thank you. That was all I had on that item. And then on the new hires document, I wanted to thank Dr. Sanchioni for sending us that. We have a printed version. Is this different than the one that was sent to us initially?
A lot happens every day in our district.
Okay.
So you have the most updated version in front of you.
Okay. Thank you for providing it. I think it's a good record of, you know, the comings and goings of staff, particularly teaching staff. Is there any way of knowing from this list who is new to our district? What I would like to do, if the committee agrees with me, is to have a way to mention folks by name when they're coming into our district, to welcome them, just as part of receiving this report. Is there any way I can tell from this list who's new to the district? Or perhaps if you know it, maybe we can just read their names?
I certainly know it. Yes, it's, if you go to, obviously looking at the chart, it's the column that says new hires replacement.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess if you want me just to go down that list, I can quickly tell you that everyone from the middle school is a new hire, new to the district. Again, we'll skip the green as I mentioned to you. That's just the transition people from the region.
Okay, so this side, okay.
So, to that point, Diane, I think that was one of the referrals that we had made to the policy subcommittee, because right now, the policy regarding hiring of administrators in particular still exists, but it's not actually enforceable under the new law. But we were going to try and take that up and figure out what do we want out of announcement of new hires and that kind of thing. So, so I think we can do that. I guess the question is, do you want to do it tonight or not? Or go
I
through
have
this list?
no problem waiting. I just feel that it's probably timely, because this is probably the biggest list we're going to see all year.
Well, and that's what we used to do, is at the beginning of each, it used to always be incorporated as part of the consent agenda, because technically we appointed all of the employees, or at least the majority of them, I think. I'm not sure if we did all of the Council 94 employees, but we actually appointed them.
We did.
And we had to vote it, and so they were kind of read out. But at the same time, it'd also be nice to have an opportunity to welcome people to the district when they come new, et cetera. And, you did get a better sense of what was going on with the staff, in terms of people leaving and new people coming, that we don't necessarily have now because of the way that the hiring now is, strictly the purview of the superintendent. So I would recommend we table at least an announcement now until we actually write the policy, and we can sort of.
Well, by then it may be November.
Yeah, well, that's true.
Diane, what did you say?
I don't see the harm in just, welcoming people
Oh.
today. I really don't, unless you feel strongly that
they're
we do.
hired.
We've got the information in front of us.
Right, and they're hired, they know they're hired, the new people.
Yeah, I'm just not sure the superintendent's prepared to do it unless you want to.
Just identify who's new.
Yeah, I think that's what you're asking for.
Well, he's already indicated all the middle school teachers that are
Are
on
all
this list are
new.
new.
Yeah.
And you know what, if it's, I don't want to do it wrong. So if you prefer.
Easy to do for
I don't think it
us.
is wrong, though. They're hired.
Well, I see a couple of
They've been at work
names.
the last 2 days. If you just want to finish the list, and below the green is some more middle school positions. The
Right.
2 secretaries are just in different positions. They're not new to us. The custodian is new. At the high school, every one of those positions, those names there are new to the district. Again, we'll skip over the green. Then you get to Fort Barton. Michelle LeBrew and Jen Peroni have been in our district for years, just changed positions. Kaylee Messler, the last name on that sheet, was with us last year, but now she was a permanent sub. She's here full-time, so she's new as a full-time employee, but not really new to the district. On the next page, Pecasset, Kristen Georgie and Julie Egan both worked for us last year in positions that they just changed into. But the next 3, Patricia, Caitlin, and Lindsay, are all new to the district. Then we skip over the green, and then you go to Ranger, and Katie and Lindsay and Ashley are all new to the district. The speech pathologist, Cassandra, was with us last year. The next special educator, Kristen, is new to the district. Kristen Gilbride.
Yes.
Yep. And then the the early childhood coordinator, Megan, is new to the district. So, there you go.
Thank you. I'll just take the bull by the horns and welcome the following new hires to the Tiverton Public Schools. And that's per the list that we have in front of us. We have at Tiverton Middle School, Sophia Cabot, Rachel Koger, Lindsay Urich, Kristen Monis, Erin Mackin, and Stephen Menard. At Tiverton High School, we have Kaylee McCurl, Christopher Mann,
And
Scott Oliveira, Charles Allaire, Nancy Tripp, McCormick Lees,
Lee's McCormick.
Lees McCormick, I apologize, Lindsay Cordero, James Ross, Allison LaBelle, Ken Kelverson, and Joanne Gates. At Fort Barton, we have Kaylee Messler,
How about Marissa?
and is Marissa a new employee?
Yeah, I'm confused.
Is she a
Oh,
new
wait, she
TA?
is.
Marissa Voorhees.
Yes.
She's a new TA, yes.
So welcome to Marissa Voorhees. At Pecasset School, we have Patricia Smith, Caitlin LeClaire, Lindsay Foster. And at Ranger School, we have Katie Tavares, Lindsay Gore-Crato, Ashley Spavold. And we have district-wide a special educator of Kristen Gilbride, and our early childhood coordinator, who is Megan Folliard. And I would like to, for the school committee, to welcome you all to our district.
Okay, thank you. And I think it's also important to point out, these are not new positions. These are people who are replacing vacated positions or moving positions within the district.
Absolutely.
cut-
With a district that has the number of employees that we have, there will be, every year, right, some level of turnover, and thank you for finding ways to fill these positions expeditiously.
Okay. So I'm going to ask for a motion to approve the entire consent agenda for A, 5A, 5B.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
A second.
Any discussion? Actually, we don't discuss. Mr. Dakotas?
Yes.
Mrs. Pavo?
Yes,
Mrs. Farnworth?
Yes.
And I vote yes. So, thank you. All right, so we're on to new business, item 6A, approved submission of VanBeuren grant. Possible vote. Dr. Sanchioni?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've given you an outline of a grant that we'd like to submit to the VanBeuren. They've been, they've been very generous to the school system in the past. As you know, last year they paid a significant amount of our professional development. And there's a lot of ways to deliver professional development, whether you bring in the outside expert or you have some people, do workshops for you and so forth. But one of the best ways in my career I've learned is that sometimes you take the best people you have on staff and you put them in the opportunity to be models for everyone in the district. And you call that a teacher on special assignment. And so the grant's asking VanBeuren to pay the salary of a replacement teacher so that we could go out and take one of our teachers who's embodied all the things that we do, whether it's project-based learning or writing across the curriculum using technology, the science of reading, and be that support person to visit classrooms throughout the year, to be a supervisor, not an evaluator, to demonstrate, do demonstration lessons, to just be able to improve the practice of every teacher in the district on an individual level. You go to a teacher, say, hey, what would you like to learn? What would you like to be better at? And that person's there to assist them to get there. So I think it could pay huge dividends. VanBeuren was very interested in it. That's something they hadn't seen and thought it was kind of a neat idea. So I seek your approval to submit it and hope for the best as far as receiving funding.
I'll make the motion to approve the submission of a $60,000 VanBeuren grant request.
I'll second that.
Okay. Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Mrs. Pavo?
I do have a couple questions. Oh, you're not asking
was-
for a vote?
No, I was opening it, giving the floor to, giving people the opportunity to
No, go ahead.
talk.
I have no questions.
Okay, Mr. Dakotas?
Go ahead, Ms. Farnworth.
Mrs. Farnworth?
Could you help me? What is TOSA?
Teacher on special assignment.
Teacher, okay. Learn something new every day. And that was my only question. Thank you.
Okay. Then, no other questions. I'll ask for a vote. Mr. Dakotas?
Yes.
Mrs. Pavo?
Yes,
Mrs. Farnworth?
Yes.
I vote yes. So thank you, Dr. Sanchioni.
Thank you.
Next is item 6B, approved contracts for OT-PT services, FICA alternative plan, possible vote. Mrs. Roderick?
Thank you, Dr. Larkin. Sorry. So in front of you, I'll start with the OT-PT services. This is occupational and physical therapy services provided by Bristol County Rehab. They were initially or previously a service that the region contracted for, and now we're bringing them in to service not only our regular education children, but our special education children. So we went out to bid, and they were the only respondent to that. So happy to answer any questions and would appreciate your vote in approving the contract.
I'll ask for a vote or ask for a motion to approve the contract.
So moved.
Is there a second?
A second.
I'll open the floor to discussion. Mrs. Farnworth?
I only have one question, and thank you for explaining that that was formerly a regional thing. Made sense. Are these hourly rates any different than they were last year for the special ed region? Do you know?
They're not,
They're exactly.
or they're very, very similar.
Okay.
Anything else?
No.
Mrs. Pavo?
Ms. Roderick,
Yes.
do you anticipate that because we'll be footing this whole bill now, we're not sharing it with any other district, will it cost us any more money for these services than it would have before? Even if the individual cost is about the same?
It should come out fairly even,
Okay.
just in terms of we shared the cost, but that cost was allocated based on enrollment. And so the number of students being serviced is very close to what it was last year. So it should come in within a few $1,000s of
Okay.
each other.
Thank you. That's my only question.
Mr. Dakotas?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Okay. I'm going to ask for a vote. Mrs. Farnworth?
Yes.
Mrs. Pavo?
Yes,
Mr. Dakotas?
Yes.
I vote yes. So thank you, Amy.
Thank you.
Is that it?
Nope. So
Yeah, I thought
the
you had
second
something.
item
Yeah.
is called a 3121 FICA alternative plan. And this idea was actually brought to us by Councilor John Edwards of the Town Council. He popped by and suggested that we look into this. And what this is for non-benefited government employees, 7.5% of their paycheck is deposited into effectively a 403B plan in lieu of their FICA contributions. Enrolling in this also then absolves the district of having to pay the 6.2% FICA. And it is only for government employees, it's only for non-benefited employees. So we would, the proposal that you have in front of you from Admin Partners not only sets up the documents, but gives us the pricing on a per individual basis. It's a way for the non-benefited employees, mainly substitutes and part-time paraprofessionals, to start developing their own investment plan for retirement and not relying on Social Security. In the flip side is that depending on how many subs we use and so forth, it could save the district between $15,000 and $20,000 a year for those employees.
I didn't hear you who you said, somebody on the town council?
John Edwards on the town
Oh,
council,
okay,
he stopped
okay.
by and he
Okay.
sat with Dr. Sanchioni and I.
He's a finance person, okay.
Actually, this is similar to what his firm does. So it was a suggestion. And so we looked into it. I had been working with, it's Greg Verna of Admin Partners to get some information. Last meeting, I was supposed to present this to you and neglected to present the documents to you. But so I'm open to questions, and hopefully you could vote the plan into effect. And it would start, depending on how quickly we could get it set up, at this point, probably October 1st. There's some administrative work that would need to be done with the third-party administrator, Admin Partners, in order to do that. But we're also, if it's approved, we're also going to be rolling it out to the eligible employees, doing sort of little short videos explaining what it is and that sort of thing.
So I'm going to ask for a motion to approve to open the discussion.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, I'll open the floor to questions. I might go first, if I may. So,
He said he's going to go first.
oh, you want to go?
No.
No,
Okay.
I thought you said Michael.
Every once in a while, I like to go first. So this doesn't affect any of our NEA members, any of our Council 94 members, or any of our administrators, correct?
Correct.
So it's only employees who are not receiving benefits right now through the district because they're basically per diem or as needed
Or
employees.
are non-benefits, so the part-time paraprofessionals are not eligible for
Okay.
benefits.
All right. And now we pay a FICA tax for them?
Yep, so we pay, for every payroll period, we pay 6.2%. The employee and the employer each pay 6.2% in FICA taxes to the federal government and 1.45% in Medicare. This would alleviate the FICA portion of it. Medicare will remain.
And is that, I guess I'm just not that familiar with the whole thing, but FICA is then similar to Social Security for them, or I don't, what
Yeah.
exactly does FICA?
That's exactly what it is.
So
It's Social Security, the payroll tax law, and I forget what the acronym stands for, but FICA is Social Security, Medicare is Medicare.
But it's somehow attached to their name as a future beneficiary of whatever they're paying into?
For FICA?
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. It's reported on every payroll to the IRS by their Social Security number and name.
Okay. And then this would instead basically create a, not a 401K, but a 403B for them, which is basically the public or the non-401K sort of part of the economy that is governed by 403Bs.
Correct.
Is creating a retirement account for them.
Correct. And at the same time, the district then no longer, as long as these people participate, the district is no longer required to match that FICA. So we save 6.2% on those particular employees' pay every pay period.
Is this in some way is this in any way detrimental to the employees that it is covering? If we're saving money, are they losing money?
No, yes, they are.
So they would be saving effectively the same amount. I guess the difference would be, again, not knowing where these folks are in their careers or in their employment, whether or not, in order to collect Social Security, you have to have what they call 40 quarters. You have to have paid in, and they take an average amount of, the salary that you've paid in over that time and so forth. So it would depend on where each individual person was in respect to that. So they could potentially lose some dollars in their Social Security. How much, I don't know.
But their 403B could theoretically increase at a better rate than their Social Security
Theoretically, yes,
beneficiary
that's correct.
benefit.
That's correct.
That's the point of them.
Mhm.
Okay. And are they required to opt into this if they're?
Dr. Sanchioni and I discussed it, and we would make it mandatory for those non-benefited employees. From an administrative perspective, it's like people would want to opt in, they'd want to opt out. So for all non-benefited,
Right.
administratively, that would be almost even for the limited number of employees that would be eligible for it. That would be an administrative nightmare.
Okay.
Not to mention, reporting to the federal government that they're in this plan, and now they're not in this plan, but now they want to go back. Again, administratively is sticky.
And have we discussed this with any of those employees at all, or it's sort of?
We have not yet.
They're sort of I guess a pretty fluid group, I would think. Maybe not. I don't know.
If you notice your list here, there's a lot of TAs.
Right, I know.
It is a very
And
transient
again,
group.
these are the part-time TAs. The full-time
The full-time,
TAs are eligible for the state retirement and things like that. So this is only what the language in the statute calls like temporary or seasonal employees, so substitutes and those who don't receive benefits because they are not eligible for benefits.
Okay. Those are all my questions for now. Mr. Jacotis?
Amy, thank you. There's a one-time setup cost of $1,350, and that's forever. That's a
That-
one-time setup cost.
That's correct. So the plan, just to give you a little detail, every 403B, every 401K plan must have a plan document, and with all the legalese and the restrictions and things like that, this agency admin partners would do that for us for that one-time fee of $1,350, so that we don't have to get lawyers involved, and that's their specialty.
Okay, service fee. And then looks like $1,300 per year to manage the plan, basically.
Correct.
Okay. Is there any minimum on contract that we have with these people once we do this? Is it like
Meaning?
so if we use a certain company like this, is it like a 3-year agreement, 5-year?
In
Is
this.
there a contract that we have to sign with them?
So we, at any point, would be able to change, so they're basically our third-party administrator for this. We could, at any time, switch third-party administrators, although that is also an administrative nightmare type of thing. So while it's not specifically stated in the document provided, it is effectively in perpetuity until we decide otherwise.
Okay. But if we needed to move on, we could.
We could.
We're not locked in, okay?
Correct. Yep.
All right, and I just want to say thanks to Counselor Edwards
Absolutely.
for his time. This seems like a,
And he also made the
Benefit.
connection to admin partners, so that was great.
Okay.
Saved us a lot of time in terms of searching around for who might be perfectly knowledgeable about it. And I have to say that they've been extremely helpful.
okay. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Jabo?
Amy, one of my questions was going to be, can someone opt out of it? But you can't. They're all going to have to be part of it. But then you did say, they're like seasonal employees. They're only part-time, part-year. And then you said like substitutes, but substitutes wouldn't be part of this, would they?
Yes, they would.
They will.
So the terminology that the statute uses, that the Section 3121 uses, talks about temporary employees, seasonal employees, and then sort of the collect-all, of non-benefited employees who work for a government entity. So for purposes of the district, our non-benefited employees are the substitutes, long-term subs, building subs, and the unbenefited part-time paraprofessionals. So it would be them as well.
So they would know that going in, like a long-term sub. Right from the get-go, they would know that they have to participate in this.
Correct.
That would be no surprise to them.
Correct.
Okay, that's,
And again, we have not rolled this out to the eligible employees, but we do have a rollout plan in terms of not just sending an email, but also Dr. Sanchioni suggested doing like a little informational video and giving people time to absorb it before we actually have them fill out the paperwork. So, which is why I said, October 1st or depending,
Right,
maybe even a little bit later.
okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Mr. Edwards.
Diane?
The-
Actually, before you go, I just feel.
No,
Yeah.
I didn't get a turn yet.
Okay.
You could
All right,
move
go
the
ahead.
second round.
The part-time paraprofessionals are covered by the Council 94 contract. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
But they get no benefits.
Does there need to be a contract reopener to put this as a mandatory management-initiated program?
No, because benefits aren't spelled out in the contract.
Okay. Secondly, the employees that we list as being part of the pool, if you will, there's about 40. How much do you anticipate annually will save in that match?
As I mentioned, between $15,000 and $20,000 a year.
15, 20,000 a year. So I have big concerns with this, and right now, you ought to know from me. And I'll say why. These are our lowest paid employees across the board. And we're taking away their FICA credits, right? Because if they're out of FICA earnings, that it doesn't count toward their credits, toward Social Security retirement. We all are hoping to take advantage one day of our Social Security, and not having those earnings in the periods that they work for us could very well cause harm to some of these employees. I don't like the idea that they wouldn't have a choice. And again, I think what it is save a nickel for the point of something that could very well be quite detrimental to the employees. Now you're asking them to manage a 403B that perhaps they're not thinking they'd need to do at this stage in their careers, their lives, et cetera. So, and lastly, I do full credit to Councilman Edwards for proposing this. This is a company out of Cherry Hill, New Jersey. I have to think there are many more companies local that administer similar plans. And that I would have, if you were seriously looking to save big dollars here, that you might have wanted to look at something a little bit closer.
I'm not sure it would amount to big dollars.
Well, and it's not big dollars now. And this, again, the proposal here is for Tiverton County Schools. I wonder how much they actually paid attention when they were making their proposal. So those are my comments. I'm just not in favor.
And I guess my other point is I guess I'd be more comfortable voting on this with two things. One is that actually we had, and I recognize it's a pool of people that may kind of have a lot of flux to them, but maybe there's a lot of people that aren't necessarily, who are, sort of more stable employees in terms of their longevity. I'd feel more comfortable if they had actually participated in the discussion to the extent that they want to. Maybe they don't want to. And I guess I would want a more detailed cost-benefit analysis for them. You know, if they continue in the program as they're in it now, paying FICA, you know, what is the accrued benefit eventually? And maybe you can't give us that type of information. And versus if they are in this program, and I think, again, that at least my relatively rudimentary understanding of these things is that the 403B can sort of grow, you know, at whatever the pace of the investment is
Correct.
through the administrator, the benefit administrator. Well, they're not the
investment company. They are
Correct.
basically the agent, the
right,
third-party
right,
administrator of the plan. And if an employee had a question, they could reach out to admin partners versus calling hypothetically Vanguard, Fidelity, or whomever
Right, I
for
guess
each
that's
of
my
the
other
funds.
question is,
Yes,
like-
they would. This admin partners would be the point of contact for them.
And do we even know who the sort of investment companies are that they use? Is it Vanguard or Fidelity or?
I don't know that piece of it yet, and but I can get a list of investment options. But that would be entirely up to the employee to select which fund or
Right.
funds that they'd want to invest in.
Which is not uncommon, but I guess before we decided we were going to do this, have at least those two pieces of information, or three pieces of information, I guess, sort of what's the cost benefit versus, you know, the two different options for the employees. Know what are the, you know, what are the, you know, some sense of what companies are using to invest this money, and then also have some sense of whether or not the employees think it's a good idea or a bad idea from their perspective.
Okay.
So, I don't know if anybody else has any other thoughts. We can table this, we can vote on the motion. Someone,
I think we can still vote on it.
we can still vote on it, yep. Okay, so I'll ask for a vote. Mr. Dakotas,
Yes.
Mrs. Pavo,
Yes,
Mrs. Farnworth?
No.
I'm going to vote no as well. So the motion fails, but I think I would like to have us take this up again.
Okay.
If there's no objection from any other member of the committee to sort of get that other information.
Okay.
Okay. All right. But thank you for all the work, and thank you, John Edwards, for sort of bringing it to you. I just think we need to have a little bit more due diligence before we kind of go forward with this. That was 6B. Next is item 6C, Reinstate Finance Subcommittee and Appoint Members. Possible vote. Ms. Farnworth?
Thank you. We had initiated a finance subcommittee as a school committee going back to, I think, 2018
16 or?
or 2020. I can't remember which. I don't think it was 2016, because that's when I first joined. We didn't have it then. But
No.
regardless.
Someone was dating it, though.
Yeah, after the 2022 election, when we came around to, you know, appointing subcommittees, et cetera, we chose as a group, and I was certainly in front of that, not to appoint or keep the group active. We had, you know, it had run its course over time, and it had not been active in some time. More recent discussions and events that have taken place over the last 9 months since that election has me thinking that perhaps we should reconsider. I would like to recommend that we reinstate the Finance Subcommittee, that some of the initial goals of that committee would be to, first of all, to review all finance-related policies and make any recommendations either to the policy or subcommittee or the full board, whatever the school committee's wish would be. We could also continue some of the very important discussions that we had begun to plan for ways to deal with our structural deficit, which we all know is going to come home to roost for the next fiscal year. And we need to start having much more in-depth discussions around that. And then, another initial thought I had as well is to get some regular audit updates, regular and even this forensic audit that we keep hearing is about to happen. I think it'd be good for members of the school committee who are appointed to the finance subcommittee to have regular discussions about that, and with, of course, full reporting via the minutes to the full school committee. And then, once we get past maybe some of these initial things, the role of the committee could be to, take a look at expenses in a little bit more depth, to actually review contracts before they come to the full school community, to, talk about the financial impacts of those contracts or the potential financial impacts of those contracts. And there may be other thoughts from others as well.
Okay, do you want to make that motion to reestablish it?
I would make the motion to reestablish the finance subcommittee, which is a subcommittee of the Tiverton School Committee.
Okay, is there a second?
Yes, second.
Okay, so I'll open it to discussion. Mr. Dakotas, Mike?
Thank you.
Oh, I'm gonna start
Well, I know I
with
was on that committee for one meeting, and then it went away. So, be happy to see it come back. Be happy to volunteer my services.
Okay. Mrs. Babo?
I think that it's a very good idea to reestablish the committee. What I would hope is that when the committee does meet, or it wouldn't be monthly probably, but that information is brought back to the full committee, because it wasn't in the past. We were going to get information and we didn't. So that I would like that to be information about what's going on to be brought back to the whole committee, full committee.
And I think it would be I would like to see that as well, that minutes be kept.
Yes.
And be brought back and included in the consent agenda, just like what we're
Right.
getting with the building committee.
That would be good. That's a good idea.
Peter, any thoughts? Any objections to this?
No objections?
You can try.
Yeah, I can, no, it worked fine in the past. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's a good idea as well, so I will ask for a vote, and then we can appoint members. Mrs. Farnworth?
Yes.
Mrs. Pavo?
Yes.
Mr. Dakotas?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes. So then it comes up to the matter of the school committee members. So Deb also expressed an interest in this. So
She's not here.
she's not here right at the moment, correct? So,
Well, in fairness to her, she would have been here last week, which
yeah,
was
it's
when
also
our
true, yeah.
meeting was initially scheduled.
Yeah. So,
So then
And-
maybe we ought to put that piece off
We could
until
table
the
that
next
piece.
meeting.
we can. There's nothing to prevent us from having a 3 members on it too, as far as I know, unless we would just have to post it as open meetings. And,
We've always made it a habit of posting all subcommittee
Yeah.
meetings.
yeah, so, but we can,
That's actually, Attorney Scungio, no, yeah. Thank you for joining us this evening.
I hate to get the lawyers involved, however.
Yeah. So there isn't any kind of a problem with having a quorum of the school committee on a subcommittee?
So the way I look at a school committee subcommittee, come up.
Please.
Yeah.
The way I look at all school committee subcommittees.
You're not on.
Wow.
Okay.
There you
How about
go.
this?
That's good.
Good now? Okay. The way I look at all school committee subcommittees is they should all be posted no matter how many people you have on them. So it's not because it constitutes a separate committee at that point under the auspices of the school committee. So if you have 1, 2, 3, or 4, it's all fine, just post.
Okay,
Okay, great.
thank you, I didn't know that.
helps. Can I say something?
Yeah,
I think I have a problem with 3 people, because if, supposing only 2 people would be able to meet, but the third person couldn't meet,
yeah.
do you have to have a full committee in order to meet, like the say was 3? Or can you meet with 2 people?
That would form a quorum, I would think.
Yeah, it depends on how the committee itself decides what its quorum is.
That's a good idea. But that's just my opinion.
Okay. So, I don't know, Mike, are you feeling strongly you want to be on the committee, or?
Yes.
Strongly?
Yes.
That's a strong word.
It's not strongly, it's, I'd be open to it.
Okay.
But if someone else said, I really want to do it, great.
Well, there's no reason why we can't have 3 people, so why don't we table it till next meeting and let Deb weigh in as well, and then we can
Okay.
make a decision about the membership.
Fair enough.
All right, item 6D, discussion on school committee minutes and agendas, legal advice, possible vote. Mrs. Farnworth.
Thank you again for listening to me this evening. Seems like I have the Attorney Scungio.
I'm not going to say what I'd say in response.
I'll push the button this time.
Thank you. And I had sent
Good
you an
evening.
email some time ago about this, and you indicated you were happy to brief us on this. What I was hoping to learn here was, what are some of the best practices by other school committees around the state? Our current practice when we are in executive session is certainly there are notes taken, but those notes are taken by our superintendent, because we have never made it a habit of having anyone outside of the committee or the superintendent in our executive sessions unless there was a need for a specific individual. I also wanted to know perhaps how long those notes need to be kept. If I don't know if it's in perpetuity or if there's a timeline. And also, what would be the process for reviewing and approving, or is that even necessary for executive committee?
Yeah, most school committees in executive session have an individual who keeps notes. In some cases, that's a school committee person. In some cases, it's a confidential secretary. A lot of school districts share that function with superintendent secretary, so a portion of them, maybe Appoint 1 FTE, is used for school committee business, or they hire someone part-time just devoted to their interests. And then that person shows up, takes minutes, takes notes, converts them into minutes. The minutes then are voted on, just like any other set of minutes from a regular session, but they're sealed, obviously when they're voted on.
So if we don't meet in executive session for 2 months, we would just hold off on any review and votes for 2 months?
For meetings? Minutes of meetings?
Right.
Yeah, well, the law provides that you're supposed to vote on minutes within 30 days, or you then have a set of unofficial minutes which could become public.
Okay.
So I don't know if the school committee ever adjourns for more than 30 days.
We don't typically know, but we don't
Yep.
always go into executive session either.
So what would happen is the executive session notes would become part of your packet from the prior meeting, and then you would vote to approve those in public session. So you vote to approve minutes in public session.
We typically seal the minutes, so those would not be approved in public session, or at
It-
least they wouldn't be available to the
They
public.
wouldn't be
They're not
Right, they're not available
We have
to
to
the
take the
public,
vote.
right.
All the votes have
But
to
we
be
But
would
you
still
should be
take a
Yep.
vote
them.
in public session.
Yep, and many committees have 2 sets of
Right.
minutes from the prior
That's the way
meeting
it's
to vote
supposed to
on.
be.
One executive, and then you again move to seal them under the statute, statutory reference, and then you vote on the public meetings, minutes.
Okay. And Is it ever a case where a school committee would need to craft a policy around this? Or is
We
it
have state law.
just state law?
You can certainly do a policy if you want to, but it would be pretty much mirror the state
Wouldn't be
law, I would
necessary.
think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Those were my questions.
That's it? Okay. One thing I would respectfully suggest to the committee is not put too much detail in the minutes. The statute just requires a minimal amount of information. I always advise the committee to just follow the statute. If a school committee person feels that they have additional information that they think is appropriate or is a reminder, any school committee person has the right to append or add to the minutes if they want to do that. And then other school committee members look at them to determine whether or not they're accurate when the minutes are examined by the committee and voted on. And at that point, they may wish to make an amendment. But if there are things that you wish to remember that are important to you, you can. That's the easiest way to do it, or to stress points. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Questions from anyone else? Mike? Elaine?
No.
He's right on target.
Okay.
2 sets of minutes.
3 questions you have.
Okay.
All right. Anything else on that, Diane?
No, thank you.
Okay. And item 6C is schedule a policy subcommittee meeting. This actually should have, or could have been under 8, but it was, I just wanted to put it on the agenda for us to remember to schedule a meeting. So, what's good for you? What's good for you?
Is this a new thing now? We're going to schedule these subcommittee meetings out?
No.
Okay.
No.
Just this
It
time.
was, I wanted to put it under 8 because we talk about meetings under 8.
Oh,
So we remembered to actually talk about it, because
Okay.
what we've been doing is forgetting to talk about it. So I asked my 2 subcommittee members.
I'm getting my calendar out. Ready?
Peter?
Shoot a date now.
How's 2027 look?
I'm going to say, please don't book anything this coming weekend.
Okay,
How's that?
that's safe.
We have a meeting coming up ourselves next Tuesday.
Correct. How about the 12th? Are we having a meeting the 12th?
We have one scheduled.
You
we
have one
want-
scheduled, but I'll let you know right now that the only thing on the agenda is what you just moved to it, is the appointment of the subcommittee, because we covered a lot, there's not a lot on that, so we can decide if you want to keep that meeting or not.
We could not meet as the school committee, but meet as the policy subcommittee. Want to do that?
You could do that.
Does that work for you, Peter?
Yeah, that's fine.
I couldn't do earlier than 6, I know that much that day. Or we could do it the following week, the
Well,
19th.
what might be a good idea is to schedule it for 6. If we still feel in a week or two that we don't have a need for a regular meeting that night, we can go ahead and cancel that as a separate item, a little closer to it. How does that
Sounds good.
sound?
So the 12th at 6.
12th at 6.
Okay.
Okay.
And agenda? Is there any specific policies you want to?
So we were in the midst of safety, and we were going to try and include at least the NEA president or a teacher in discussing that. There were other policies that we had,
I still have the packet, but I don't have it with me tonight.
yeah. What, the
We were
security,
going to, we
safety stuff?
were in the process of going through all of the policies, and I think it was in the 1100 series.
Yeah, of safety you're talking about?
Safety
Yeah.
ones first, and then perhaps, and maybe what we do is, because it's been some time, we can wrap up the safety work and then make a plan for whatever the next group of policies would be, unless you had specific ones you wanted to broach.
We had made 4 referrals in May. One of them was around the hiring policy, which is now obsolete, but we were going to sort of come up with something else that was, anyway, to suggest to the full committee. And I have to go back and look at the minutes to remember what the other ones were.
I think we can probably communicate
Yep.
the agenda
We can.
and craft it.
Yes,
Okay.
that's correct. Okay. So moving on, under old business, 7A, discussion, submission of the locker room capital project, capital needs, submission of the town council. There really isn't, I don't know, is there anything you want to discuss, Peter, other than?
Just maybe
we're
mention that
meeting the
we're meeting Monday, and both those agenda items are the focus of Monday.
Okay. Anybody have anything else on that?
So just to review, the plan on Monday would be to review the stage 3 proposal? Or is that part of this meeting?
Tuesday or Monday?
Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Monday's a
holiday.
Someone said Monday.
Tuesday.
Yes? I'm right?
heard Monday.
If I did, sorry.
Like, I won't be anywhere Monday.
No, none of us will. That's Labor Day.
So regarding the stage 3, the stage 3 has already been submitted.
To ride.
And it's been approved by the school committee and the building committee. It's waiting funding. So
Funding.
that's the last, and once we receive funding, we would go to bid. So that would be the purpose of Monday night, to discuss funding. Tuesday, thank you, with the town council about funding. And then the stage 2 is seeking their approval. Again, you've approved it, the building committee has approved it, to submit it to RIDE,
You need their approval.
and we need their letter from them of approval.
Okay. Thank you.
There's documents being created on both of those that I hope to get out to you. Jerry and Diane, you have them, and I'll get them out to you within a day.
I have them?
I sent them to you earlier today.
Okay. Okay. Then number 8 is future meetings, dates, agenda topics. We sort of have discussed this already. So you don't think, Peter, we need to meet on September 12th?
I'll certainly defer to you folks. I'm just saying to you, right now, it's a very light agenda.
So
You
we're
know,
gonna-
especially the fact that you're meeting tonight, you're meeting next Tuesday, and then you'd have another meeting right after that. The only thing on the agenda right now would be what you just deferred. So it's up to you.
So
I
we
mean,
can
we
take,
just leave it there for now
Sure.
and
Sure, Cole.
maybe cancel as we get a little bit closer?
It's okay with me. Anybody else have any other strong opinions about that?
No?
I'm asking for strong opinions. Only getting a few. All right. Then I'm going to ask to move in, a motion to move into executive session under Rhode Island General Law 42465A3, security discussion, school safety plans and dissemination, Rhode Island General Law 5A1, job performance, character, physical or mental health, superintendent goals, Rhode Island General Law 42465A1, job performance, character, physical or mental health administrator, and Rhode Island General Law 42465A3, discussion of SRO MOU.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Ask for a vote. Mrs. Farnworth?
Yes.
Mrs. Pavo?
yes?
Mr. Dakotas?
Yes.
And I vote yes, we're in executive.